On behalf of York County and the York County Historical Commission, I'd like to welcome you to our Memorial Day service. It's our 159th anniversary of Memorial Day. And I'd like to welcome some of our guests here, Stephen Roan with the Board of Supervisors, Tom Shepard on our Board of Supervisors, and Sheila Knoll with our Board of Supervisors, as well as Danny Diggs, our representative to Virginia Assembly. So we're glad to have all of you and your spouses here with you. Our committee members wear a lot of hats, and our chairman, Beverly Powell, is actually a volunteer at the National Park Service Visitor Center on Mondays, so she's not able to be here until 1 because that's when she gets off duty. But a lot of our members serve on various committees all over the county outside of just Yorktown Historical Committee. I'd like to welcome our other guests. Terry Taylor will be doing our national anthem. Dr. Edward Boston and his wife Deborah are here. He will be our keynote speaker. And Lois Winter on our committee here tolled the bell for us. Today we are here to honor those that have served our country and given their lives so that we may stand here and still live in freedom. We need to be constantly reminded of our gift of freedom and of those who gave all to make sure future generations continue to know life in a free and democratic society. Remembering those who have passed is only half of the task that is here before us. We must also carry their love, honor, and duty forward to the future generations that will pass. Our children must know who they were, what they did, and why they did it. To do anything less would be a disservice to their sacrifice and their memories. Those that are gone created a clear pathway for us to continue on. We must never waver from that path of freedom and democracy. Take their memories, take their dreams, and walk forward shouldering the cause of freedom. Carry it high and proud. They did, and now you must walk forward for them and for our children. We'll have the posting of the colors. VFW Post 824 will march in our colors.
Guided forward. March.
And York County High School and JROTC will be placing the service flags.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming in the rocky sweet gleam, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Our Memorial Day message today will be given by Dr. Edward Boston. And Dr. Boston's been here with us several times for Memorial Day and Veterans Day and done our invocation and benediction. And he's a great speaker, and I thought this year he should be doing our keynote speech. Dr. Boston, his wife, Deborah. Dr. Boston's from North Carolina, and Deborah's from South Carolina. So I don't know how that, but I thought that was pretty neat. But Dr. Boston graduated from East End High School, Robersonville, North Carolina in 1969 as a valedictorian. He attended St. Augustine's College in Raleigh, North Carolina, and graduated in 1973 as a valedictorian and summa cum laude with a Bachelor's of Science in Pre-Medicine, Chemistry, and Mathematics. He's way past me. I was a musician. He attended college with a full academic scholarship. Dr. Boston then attended Meharry Medical College and graduated in 1977 with his Doctor of Medicine degree. He attended medical school with a full scholarship sponsored by the U.S. Navy. He completed his internship at Eastern Virginia Graduate School of Medicine and General Surgery in 1978 and went on to active duty with the U.S. Navy. He practiced general and emergency medicine for 6 years. He then came to Portsmouth Naval Hospital from 1984 to 88 and completed a residency in obstetrics and gynecology.
To Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Shepard and the board of directors and all of you who come today, this is an opportunity that I not take lightly. And of course to my lovely wife, Deborah, glad that she's here. I see my daughter and my 2 grandsons back there, my goddaughter. But thank you all for coming, and my church members are here also, so thank you all for coming out today. So I can just tell you just a little bit about myself. And when Tim gave my introduction, that's really about 40% of what I had to say. So I'll give you the Cliff Note version then. But I'm reminded of a story. Like I said, I spent 25 years with the Navy. I'm reminded of a story of a young man who has spent 4 years in the military, and toward the end of that 4th year, he developed some peculiar behavior. He would go from, every time he'd go in an office, he would start turning things over, looking under things. And this went on for a few months, and finally one of his members said, one of his officers said, let me have you go down to medical and talk with them, and let's see what's going on here. So he went to medical, and they spoke with him, and they said, well, it looks like you have an obsessive compulsive disorder, and I don't think this is conducive with military service. So I think we're going to go ahead and discharge you. So he went to see his commanding officer, and went in the commanding officer's office, and he started turning things over, and the commanding officer said, sir, we've determined that you are no longer needed on active duty, and you're now discharged from the service. Here are your discharge orders. He said, oh my captain, thank you. This is what I've been looking for all this time. That's all I got for that. Well, so where does this journey begin? This journey began back in 1951. I was born in Williamston, North Carolina, and I lived in North Carolina really up until I finished college from St. Augustine's College in Raleigh, North Carolina. And then I left there and went on out to Nashville, Tennessee, and left there, came to Virginia, went to North Carolina, came back to Virginia, went to North Carolina, came back to Virginia, went to North Carolina, came back to Virginia, and here I am. So anyway, but during that time when I was growing up in North Carolina, I grew up on a farm, and I had one of 10 siblings, and so I was number 7 as you come down the list. And so anyway, I was a young boy, I guess about 5 years old, and my father and my 2 older brothers were in a cornfield, and they were chopping down weeds. And how many of you ever heard of an instrument called a bush axe? Well, anyway, I met a bush axe up close and personal, and guess who won? And so anyway, I was going to the field to take my father and my 2 brothers some water, and my oldest brother didn't see me, so he came out with the bush axe, and guess what? It caught my head right in the middle. And of course, it filleted my head open, and my father took me into the emergency room, and the doctor there, took his time and took care of me and sewed me up. And he asked me a profound question. He said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I said, "I'm 5 years old. I don't know." And I said, "I kind of like what you're doing. I think I want to do that. I want to help people." And he said, "Well, if you want to do this, all you have to do is just study hard and apply yourself. You can be anything that you want to be, and the rest is history." So I thank Dr. Joe for that word of encouragement. And so as Tim mentioned, I went on to finish high school in 1969 and graduated valedictorian of my class, and went on to college at St. Augustine's College in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I completed my degree I got a Bachelor of Science in pre-med, mathematics, chemistry. I guess I took all those majors because I guess I was trying to determine what I was going to do, even though I knew I wanted to go into medicine. So I was accepted for medical school over at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and Meharry Medical College in Nashville, Tennessee. And so I looked at those 2, and I said, well, where do I want to go? So I decided to stick with the historically black university. So I went out to Meharry Medical College in Nashville, Tennessee, and I stayed there 4 years, and I graduated in 1977. And you've noticed in my bio, I said I graduated valedictorian of my high school class, valedictorian of my college class, but you didn't hear that for medical school. Well, as it turns out, when you go to when I went to medical school, I was there with about 300 people in my class, and all these people were, valedictorians, salutatorians, top 1% to 2% of their classes. So in other words, there was a lot of rivalry initially. And then one of our professors said, I really need for you all to work together, because when you come to this cadaver, you're going to have to work together to do your dissections, to pass all your classes. And he said, well, let me just level the playing field for you. He said, no matter who finished first in this class, no matter who finished last in the class, at the end of the day, we're going to call you all doctors. So with that in mind, I said, okay. So we all jumped in and started working together. So I left Nashville, Tennessee in 1977 and started a general surgery residency and internship down at Norfolk General, Eastern Virginia Graduate School of Medicine. Well, I went to medical school on a Navy scholarship. And when I signed on a dotted line, they said, well, we're going to make this real easy for you. We'll sponsor your medical school for 4 years, and we'll pay your tuition and fees and buy your books and give you a stipend on one little catch. We need you to give us 4 years at the completion of your service, and or 1 year for every year that we send you to school. So I said, that sounded like a pretty good deal. A young man who had come from Martin County, North Carolina, the son of a sharecropper. I said, well, gee whiz, I think this is a pretty good deal. So I signed on a dotted line, and I was commissioned as an ensign on June 15th, 1973. And so after I completed Meharry Medical College, I went down to Norfolk General and started a residency in general surgery. And my first day on duty, I was a brand new intern, straight from medical school. Day one, I was placed in the neurosurgery intensive care unit in charge of 10 patients, all on ventilators. Can you imagine the anxiety of an intern having to take care of all those complex patients? Of course, help was right away, but the call for help, I was told, was a sign of weakness. So I didn't call for help. But of course, I did. But anyway, that was my introduction to the world of specialty medicine. So I completed that first year of general surgery down at Norfolk General, and then I was called on active duty by the United States Navy, and I went through 2 weeks of orientation. Matter of fact, we were so short of doctors during that time. As you recall, the Vietnam era had just ended, and doctors were leaving the military in droves, so there was a great void, and they needed general medical officers. And so what they did, they went around the country, and all the students that were had been on scholarship, and in that first year were all pulled out of their training and placed on active duty. Well, of course, that put a real sour taste in my mouth, and I said, I'm going to pay this 4 years, and I'm getting out of here. So I went down to North Carolina, in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where I spent 2 years with the Marine Corps. And during that time, I was able to do a Mediterranean cruise, and I went over to I flew out into Rota, Spain, to relieve one of the other doctors, and I was there for about 94 days. And so that was my entire military career on the Navy, on the water rather, for 94 days. So I was there long enough to get my sea service ribbon, as you see right here. And of course, you see all the ribbons I have here. We'll talk about those in a few minutes. But at any rate, I went on this tour, the Mediterranean tour, and I went aboard the USS Incheon, which is a helicopter carrier. I had a great time aboard the Incheon. We went to Rota, Spain, went to Barcelona, Spain, and I was able to go up to Rome during that time. After the ship docked in Naples, Italy, so I was able to go up there. And on Palm Sunday, 1979, I was able to see the Pope. I went to the Vatican on Palm Sunday, and of course I was down there in the audience, and I took my picture and I sent it to my wife, and I said, way up there in that little dot, that's the Pope. Because I was way back there. But anyway, so got to visit Rota, Spain, and then from there I went to Toulon, France, Vatican, Greece, and then and got to sail past the Azores, and then came on back home. So that was 1979, and then I completed my 2 years of general medicine down at Camp Lejeune, and I came back to Norfolk, to Sewell's Point Medical Clinic, where I spent 2 years again as a general medical officer, doing emergency medicine primarily and family medicine. And also, of course, I was one who always liked to keep busy, so I developed a hypertension clinic. And during that time, I discovered one of my patients who was a pilot. He was a young man, real healthy, and his blood pressure was just, off the roof. Just beyond, 220 over 110. A young, healthy man. And of course, I said, this should not be the case. So I started an exhaustive investigation and later discovered that he had a epinephrine-producing tumor called a pheochromocytoma. And so luckily we were able to get him taken care of, and he flew planes and was able to retire. And of course, he always thanked me profusely for that. But I said, don't thank me, just thank all the folks who trained me. So I don't want to take any personal credit for myself. So anyway, so that took me up to 1982, and then I went back to North Carolina, down at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. This time I went to the hospital where I was the chairman of the emergency room department and general medicine department, and I did that for another 2 years. And then I had this hankering then to go back to my training. At this time now, if you've been keeping a timeline, I'm past my 4 years now that I need to pay back. So now I'm on overtime. Well, maybe not overtime, but I decided, well, okay, let me go ahead and get back into training. And at this time, when I went into training, I didn't have to worry about any payback because I was on active duty. And by this time, I was a lieutenant commander, which is equivalent to a major in the other services. So I went back to Portsmouth Naval Hospital and completed residency in obstetrics and gynecology. You notice I didn't say general surgery. I started out in general surgery, but I decided what I want to do is, general surgery was so broad, I decided that I wanted to do something a little more specific, and I just want to take care of women and deliver babies and do gynecologic surgeries, and so that's what I did. So I was at Portsmouth Naval Hospital from 1984 through 1988, and I graduated from there. And guess where I went? Went back to North Carolina. See, I remember I kept saying Virginia, North Carolina, Virginia, North Carolina. So I went back to North Carolina, where I was, by this time I was an 05 or commander, equivalent to lieutenant colonel. And of course, everywhere I went then, I was more senior than all the other doctors. So when the deployments came up, guess who got to go? All the other doctors got to go. Even during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, I was all set and ready to go, but I had so many junior doctors that they ended up going instead of me. But I did have my duffel bag packed, and my wife and daughters they had prepared my duffel bag, and inside of my shoes they had put some Ritz crackers, there was some peanuts and raisins. So they wanted to surprise me when I got over to Iraq. But as it turns out, I didn't get to go to Iraq. And I didn't wear those boots again until, then once I retired, we were going through some things in the attic, and I ran across these boots, and I said, well, gee whiz, what's in here? There I found the crackers and the peanuts and the raisins. So I thank my wife for that. So she and my daughters, they wanted to surprise me. And so I finished up, so I was at Naval Hospital, Camp Lejeune, from 1988 through 1989. And then I went up to Cherry Point, North Carolina, where I was there from 1989 through 1992. And my wife, during this time, she did, we did a lot of moves, and I was a geographical bachelor several of those years. For those of you who don't know what that means your family stays one place and you go another place. And so after that, in the summer of 1989, my wife had just completed her training up at Norfolk State, getting her master's, and so she and my daughters moved to North Carolina. And so anyway, I was at Camp Lejeune initially, and she was there for all of 1 month. So we didn't have a chance to get to unpack our bags when I got orders to go up to Cherry Point. And so my wife, she still thanks me for that, so for not having to unpack all those boxes. But anyway, we did finally got to unpack those boxes, and we went up to Cherry Point, North Carolina, and I was there from 1989 through 1992. And guess what? I came back to Naval Hospital, Camp Lejeune. And during this time, I was there from 1992 through 1995, and I was chosen to be the commanding officer of Fleet Hospital 20, which is a Fleet Hospital. Have you ever seen MASH? The MASH hospitals, the big hospitals where you have operating rooms. Really, it's kind of like a little city. It really is a hospital in a box. And so with that, of course, once I became commanding officer of Fleet Hospital 20, I got to travel quite a bit. going back and forth to Japan and participating in the joint services exercises such as ultra-focused lens. I know some of you know about that who are in the Air Force and in the Marine Corps and the other services. There's a joint exercise between the United States and our allied forces in the Korean sector. So I got to do that for 3 years, and then in 1998, I got orders to Gitmo Bay, Guantanamo Bay, and I said, well, that was an unaccompanied tour, and I said, well, that's not too bad. I'll just be there for a couple of years. And then got another letter from Washington, said, well, okay, I think I want you to go to Okinawa, Japan, and take over the hospital there. And then so all this happened within the span of about 3 weeks. And by this time, my wife was in a tailspin. So she said, okay, I tell you what, you go ahead and do that little military thing, but I'm going to stay here. And so about that same time, I got a call from one of my good friends who said, you know, Dr. Boston, we have an opening for you up here at Fort Eustis. If you're interested, if you can pull yourself away from the military, I'd be happy to have you up here to work with me. So, and that was my good friend, Dr. Myers, who called, and I said, okay, I'll do that. And I called my wife from I called her from Monterey, California when I was out there getting prepared to go out to Okinawa. And then I said, well, dear, why don't you go ahead and fly on out here? I got something to tell you. So I flew my wife out to Monterey, California during the time she was there. And I'm sure she knew something was up. So I said, dear, you know, I've been in the military now for 25 years, and I think it's time for me to retire. And she couldn't believe that. Because she knew how much I loved the Navy, and I was being looked at for becoming an admiral and all. And I said, well, I think the time has come for me to go. And so she said, well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I wasn't going to Japan. So I would have been going by myself. So anyway, I retired from the Navy in 1998 after 25 years. I retired as a captain, and during all this time, I practiced obstetrics and gynecology for 14 years, and during this time, under my watch, I say anytime anybody delivered a baby on my watch, I got credit for it, and so I got credit for over 3,000 deliveries. Of those 3,000 deliveries, I did about 1,000 of those myself. And matter of fact, I can tell you about. You remember does anyone here remember Hurricane Gloria? It was back in, I think it was 85, 86. Anyway, I was a resident during that time at Portsmouth Naval Hospital. And during that one shift, I delivered 30 babies.
Oh my.
Can you imagine that? You're talking about the barometric pressures going this day and that. I mean, of course, I got no sleep, as you can imagine. Back in those days when we did call for about 36 hours in a row. And that was back before we had the nicer, friendlier residencies programs that we have now, where residents can't work more than 12 to 14 hours, which I think is a good thing. But the experiences that we got were just amazing. So as I look back over this 25 years that I try to condense in, Tim, am I over time yet? Nope. Okay, I didn't see the red light come up yet, telling me the speaker's lamp telling me I was over. But during that time, I had a great time with the United States Navy, and I met a lot of people along the way, and a lot of friends that will last forever. And but most of all, as I stand here today in the backdrop of Yorktown, Virginia, with the great history here, with the military history, I'm just in awe to have been asked to speak on a career that I really loved and I cherished, and I loved serving this great nation of ours. No matter who's in the White House, guess what? It's still our nation. We're still one nation united under God, indivisible. So let's remember that. So in closing, I just want to let you know that the 25 years, for me, it went by real fast. I guess I have to talk with my wife and my daughters how fast it went by for them. This thing of being hopscotch all over, matter of fact, all over between North Carolina and South Carolina. Between North Carolina and South Carolina, there's a couple large ditches there. And those are the ditches that my daughters, that's my daughter's fingerprints that say, and we were moving them from Virginia to North Carolina. They did not want to leave Virginia, so, but at any rate, but we had a great time there, and it's been a great career. And I was going to tell you about all my ribbons. Of course, granted, to get ribbons, I guess you have to do the work, and then you have to have the paperwork and all submitted. But I was so busy down in the trenches doing work that I didn't even care about the medal, and that was okay. So I ended up with these 3, and I'm happy with that. So without further ado, I thank you for indulging me during this time. So I took you through 25 years and about 15 minutes. To God be the glory. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
We'd like to recognize the conflicts that are on the monument, and if you get a chance after the program's over, if you take a minute to walk around, you'll see a lot of similar names from the different periods of history that we've been involved in. And our monument probably goes back further than any monument to those lost in conflicts throughout the country, because we go back to Bacon's Rebellion, which was the first revolution, sort of. We had 4 that were lost there, and 2 were hung by the king because they were on the wrong side of things. And then 2 died in the combat. But Bacon's Rebellion, the American Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, which was what year? Good, that was a test. The American Civil War, the First World War, the Great War, depending on which time period you're looking at, the war to end all wars. The Second World War, the Korean War, a lot of times called the Forgotten War. The Vietnam War, one of our longest campaigns. Operation Enduring Freedom, and Operation Iraqi Freedom, the War on Terror, which is still ongoing. So if you get a chance, take a look around at the folks we have on there and that we try to keep recognized. At this time, we'd like to place the wreaths. We've got 3 groups placing wreaths at the monument today. The first one is Disabled American Veterans, Chapter 13. And Terry's another one that wears many hats. He's also in VFW Post 824. And just a great guy, great person, does a lot of work for the DAV. The second group, Comte de Grasse Chapter, National Society of Daughters of the American Revolution. Now, they're a little further down the line than the actual daughters. Just want to let y'all know that. They're another group that does an awful lot for our community. The third group is the Morehouse Society Children of the American Revolution, another great organization to have here in Yorktown. And if everyone would please stand for the playing of taps. I want to offer my personal thanks to York County for letting our committee exist. You guys fund us, you have a lot to do with us, and you're always here supporting us. To the ROTC, the Fifes and Drums of Yorktown, VFW Post 824, DAV Chapter 13, Children of the American Revolution, Daughters of the American Revolution, and everyone else that's come to support us for this event.